So, welcome to Asher and Torah Anytime. We are up to Perek Yud Ches. Last we finished off Achitophel. Achitophel hung himself. That's what it seems like. And the Atzas Achitophel fell apart. Chushi gave different advice. The advice of Chushi bought Dovid Hamelech time. Because he bought Dovid Hamelech time, that's why he was able to regroup himself and re-strategize, and then the neighboring kings had pity on him and they made this humanitarian effort and they sent him all different types of supplies, so he was actually getting himself back in order. Now Perek Yud Ches continues. Vayivkoi Dovid es ha'am asher itoi. Vayivkoi Dovid es ha'am asher itoi vayosam aleim sorei alofim v'sorei meos. So Dovid Hamelech appointed new generals. So he took whoever he was left, and suddenly there was a lot of people who started rejoining David. Because don't forget, in order for Avshalom to get together the entire army, it took a lot of time, and in that time, Dovid Hamelech started getting people joining him more and more. Vayishalach David es ha'am ashlishes b'yad Yoav. He sent a shlish. He sent a third in the hand of the general Yoav. A shlish is biyad Avishai ben Tzuri Achi Yoav, which is another cousin of David, or a nephew of David. V'ashlish is biyad Itay Agiti v'yomer Hamelech el ha'am yotzoi eitzei gam ani imachem. So the king says, "I'm going to go out with you to battle. V'yomer ha'am lo yisetzei. Please don't come along with us, because it's not going to help us much. Ki im nois non nois. If you're going to come, if you're going to run away, that means they're not going to care about us. You're the prize that they're after. So we're just going to be fodder in their way. And you're worth 10,000 compared to us. You stay in the city, you stay behind, you daven for us, you give us advice, but you stay behind and don't come along on the front lines. I'm going to do whatever's good in your eyes. Hundreds and thousands. That means there's like thousands of people with Dovid Hamelech. So now you have a real battle going on, which is exactly what Chushi wanted should happen, which is what Achitophel didn't want should happen. It happened. He says, be kind. Deal with mercy on Avshalom. That means even though Avshalom is the one who's rebelling against him, and Avshalom is the one who's causing him all this grief, and he expelled his father, he's still telling his soldiers, deal kindly with Avshalom. Everybody heard the king's command, deal kindly with Avshalom. So the Olim goes out to war, to the field of Kras Yisrael, and they had tremendous courage that they knew that Dovid Hamelech's tefillos are with them. There was a battle in the forest of Ephraim. And they fell, and the soldiers of Shalom fell before the servants of David. Thousands of people are dying. There were so many war casualties just from pits and from people stumbling over each other and from the disarray, that more of Avshalom's soldiers died from the disarray and the terrain casualties more from the actual battle. And it happened that because of the disarray, that Avshalom found himself, the new king found himself in front of David. Avshalom is riding on a mule. So a mule is relatively a smaller animal than a horse. It's just like interesting that the word pered, which is a mule, is a lashon of pereda, is a lashon of separation. So it's just interesting that Avshalom, who was running the rebellion to separate, is riding on a on a pered.
Why would it be on a mule?
It was just
Not generalized.
right.
Like,
And it's interesting before that when Avshalom killed Amnon, I think also it said that all of his brothers all rode away on mules. So there's a donkey, and then there's a horse, and a pered is a mixed breed. Is a hybrid between a horse and a donkey. Correct. So there's a pered. So why they were riding on a pered is a good question. This pered goes under a very low-hanging tree, which is called a shoivech, which is very, very dense branches. His head got stuck in the branches. He remained hanging between heaven and earth. Why? Because the mule that was beneath him kept on going. So he's riding on this mule. He has long flowing hair. We spoke about his hair before. He was a very beautiful looking guy with long flowing hair. Gets stuck in the shoivech. The mule keeps on going. He remains like hanging from his hair between heaven and earth. Vayar ish echad. Vayagid leYoav. One of the soldiers from David saw him hanging, and he told Yoav, I saw Avshalom hanging from this Eila tree between heaven and earth. You'll find out. But it's just interesting that, at the end of the game, everybody's hanging. Like you have that Avshalom is hanging. Achitophel was left hanging at the end of his story. The advisor was hanging, at least from a rope, and here he's hanging from his hair.
That's why it's on the mule. The mule has no continuity.
The mule has no continuity, right? And the mule had actually, but here the mule had continuity. It kept on going. He won't have continuity.
It doesn't procreate.
Correct. I got it. You'll see more about that in a moment. You'll see it. It's part of the story. So Yoav tells this messenger, you saw him hanging. Why didn't you kill him? He said, you didn't kill him, you lost the opportunity. I would have given you 10 silver coins and a belt as an award that, hey, you killed the enemy. You could have won a prize. Even if you would offer me 1,000 silver coins. I'm not going to hit the Ben Hamelech. Everybody heard it. Everybody heard how the king said, Shimru mi banar b'Avshalom. Watch him. So, what do you expect me to do? Not only that, he says, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You would fool me. You know what would happen? You're going to tell me to kill him. And then, I'm the one who defied the words of the king. Then when it's going to come time for accountability, he's going to find out who did it. You're going to say, I told him to kill him? And then the blame is going to be put on me. So first of all, I'm not going to defy the king, and I don't trust you. I basically don't trust you that you're going to have my back. You're going to screw me once the subpoenas are going to be served, I'm going to be left hanging. Yeah, pun intended. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You think that I'm trying to fool you? I'm going to do it myself. He took 3 wooden stakes. He drove them into the heart of Avshalom. But he was still alive. But he was still alive, and he was hanging in the middle of this Eila tree. Anyway, these stakes went through Avshalom's body, but he was still alive. So the servants around him finished off the job. And they killed him. And Yoav blew with the shofar, which was a sign of victory. And it was in order to tell the people, hey, stop chasing after him, the war's over. The battle's stopped. Because Yoav quieted down the people, they said, no reason to kill anybody any longer. They took Avshalom, he threw him in the forest, in the big pit. They covered him with a huge pile of stones. And all of his people from Avshalom ran back to their tents. Basically, they lost.
It can't be a happy day.
Wait, come along. Avshalom Lokach. You have to understand also, it's just like everything over here is very reminiscent of the Ben Soder and Moirer story, right? But the Ben Soder and Moirer, which is Avshalom, it follows the whole pattern of the Torah of somebody who takes a Eshes Yifas Torah and he gives into his lust, and he has a child. The next part in the Torah is Ben Soder and Moirer. And here you have a story of a Ben Soder and Moirer. And the end of the story is you can't say that he was stoned, but he was covered with a pile of stones.
I thought Chazal said that Ben Soder was low, high, or low.
Correct. So it's not exactly the exact.
Half of the Jews would follow him before he came.
Right. So again, the Ben Soder murder is when he's 13, and there's there's a lot of requirements of what has to happen, and Shmuel Beis v'kol imo, and the kol av v'kol has to be the same voice. There's a whole bunch of requirements, but I don't know. Avshalom Lokach. Now, Avshalom in his lifetime, when Avshalom was alive, very interesting, and this is what you mentioned before, is Vayatzev lo b'chayev matzeves asher be'emek hamelech. He made it for himself like a monument. Be'emek hamelech ki amar ein li ben. He said, I don't have a child. Now, even though before it said that he had 3 sons, so the Mefarshim say that his children died. Or some say that it means that he didn't have children who were roi to rule after him. But regardless, he didn't see himself as having a continuity after him. So that aligns with what you were saying of that him riding on a pered also doesn't have any continuation. So that's the correlation over there. Anyway, ba'avod hiskishmi, k'amar en li bein ba'avod hiskishmi, va'yikar lo matzeves al shmoi, va'yikar lo yad Avshalom ad hayom hazeh. In Yisrael, there's still today a monument called Yad Avshalom. Now, I don't know if that Yad Avshalom has anything to do with this Yad Avshalom, but the name Yad Avshalom, the monument of Avshalom, that's why all these things is like Yad Vashem. Yad Avshalom is the places of Avshalom ad hayom hazeh. So Rashi says that Yad means a mokom, but why was Yad also means a hand? So I guess it's giving him a hand of sorts. Anyway, bottom line is Rashi says that he was buried by this Yad Avshalom. That means they removed his body, and eventually they buried him in this Yad Avshalom, which was a monument which he built for himself, that he should be remembered because he didn't see himself having any continuity. Achimaaz ben Tzadok told Yoav, Arutzano v'avasra es hamelech. I'm going to run, and I'm going to notify the king. Ki shaftu Hashem miyad oivav. Ki shaftu Hashem, that Hashem, Ki shaftu Hashem miyad oivav, because Hashem did justice and he took revenge on the enemies of Dovid Hamelech. Yoav said, I wouldn't advise you that you should go bring these bearings to the king. It's not like really such good news. You're a good person. I don't think you're the one to bring such news to the king. I don't think he's going to appreciate it that much. If you start to be wait for different opportunity to bring him bearings. You bring him only good news. Why are you going to bring him news that his son died? So Yoav knew that the king knew that Dovid Hamelech wanted him alive, but Yoav politically held that there's no way you could leave Avshalom alive. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If you think about it, of course Avshalom deserves to die. He rebelled against the king. He sent his father packing. He had relations with Pilak She'aviv. I mean, of course, there's no question that he deserves to die. So there was a servant from the Kushim. So you go tell the king what you saw. So this Kushi thought that Yoav is doing him a huge favor, that he chose him to be the emissary, that he should bring the news. So he ran, he bowed down, he was like honored that he's going to be able to bring the king the news, that they won the battle, and that he was stamped out. And Achimaz ben Tzadok was a good person. He told Yoav, I don't care whatever happens, I don't care if the king is going to be upset, but I want to be there. I want to be there together with the king in this time. I'm going to run after him. Why would you want to do that, my son? It says you don't have anything to bring the king. He said, I don't care. Whatever it is, even though I'm not going to get any reward for this, still I'm going to run. And I'm only going to tell him the good news. At least I'm going to bring down, I'm going to take down a little of the edge, but I'm going to notify him the good news. What? Which is that they won the rebellion. So there's good news over here also. I'm going to notify him the good news. He says, okay, you run. And he goes quicker than the Kushi, he runs faster than him. And David is sitting between the two walls. He goes up in the watchtower on top of the wall. He sees somebody running, a lone person running. And the guard who was standing on the watchtower told the king, if he's alone, he has something to tell us. And he's getting closer. He sees a second person running, which is the Kushi. There's another person running. There's two people running. He's also coming to bring me tidings. There's two pieces of information are coming over here. I can tell from the run, from the way of running, it seems like it's Achimaz ben Tzadok. He's a good guy. He's coming to bring me good news. Because he's just a good-natured person and he wouldn't run like this to bring me bad news. It has to be he's bringing me something good. Bows down. And he said, Baruch Hashem, Elekecha, blessed is Hashem, who gave over the hands, gave over the people, who lifted their hands against you, into the hands of Yoav, which means he gave him over the Besuda, the good Besuda, that we won the battle, and that the rebellion has been squashed. What's doing with my son, with the Nar Avshalom? The Mefarshim say that the reason why he called Avshalom Maholtam a Nar is because he considered his uprising to be a Maisa Nidus. He considered his uprising to be like a Nar, like a child, like a childish tantrum. Silly, acting out. He didn't see it as, he didn't perceive it as a real rebellion. He perceived it as he loved them. He said, I saw the great amounts of people who are extremely jubilant on the Nitzachon. L'shloach es Eved Hamelech Yoav, to send the king Yoav es Avdecho, and to send me to notify, but I don't know more. Meaning he evaded the question. He didn't want to go there. He said, turn around and stand here. because he realized that he's hiding something from him, and he realized that the second guy coming is going to bring him more info. So he stood there on the side, and the new guy comes around, the Kushi messenger comes, Hashem delivered you from all the people who are standing against you. Now he also had the brains not to tell it him outright, but he told it to him, and he says, Halavai, he's like, you cannot, Halavai, everyone should befall to them what happened to your son, and anybody who stands up against you for evil should end up the way Avshalom ended up, which means that he's dead. And here's where the pasuk says, I think the Gemara says, he says, Vayirgas Hamelech, he trembled. Vayal al aliyas hashar, he went up on top of the gateway. Vayevken, and he cried on the death of Avshalom. Now, the real inyan is that Dovid Hamelech is always seeing everything that happens to him as coming from himself. That means, in Dovid Hamelech's way of looking at the world, he knew what happened he knew that he took a Eshes Yifas Toyer. He knew that Avshalom was born with the Tchunas HaNefesh of a Ben Soyer Remoyer. He knew that it came from somewhere. He also knew the story of Bathsheba. He also knew what happened with Uriah Hitti. He also knew that he incriminated himself with the mashal when Nasna Navi came. He knew that what Nasna Navi told him is everything is going to happen. So he knew that everything that's transpiring is all coming from him. And Dovid Hamelech throughout, that's what happened when Shimon ben Gedi Oisi said, Hashem Amalei Kalel. He knew that everything comes from him, so he always viewed whatever's happening as, what does it have to do with me? He never went around blaming people and said that, he's the Shaygets. He's the one that he deserves to be killed. He's the rebel. He's the Musad. He's the this. He's the that. He cursed me. He backstabbed me. He never went around pointing fingers. He was always like translating the story, and he said, oh Hashem, it's coming from me. So when this happened to Avshalom, and he took always responsibility in himself, is Vayevka, and he cried, he said when he was walking back and forth on the shar, he said, B'ni Avshalom, B'ni Avshalom. Miyiten Musi ani sachtecha Avshalom, B'ni. Chazal say that he cried 8 times B'ni, 7 times, here we only said 5 times. He cried 8 times B'ni. That 7 times he took him out of 7 layers of Gehenna until he brought him up until Vashmini, and the 8th one he brought him into Gan Eden. He cried 8 times B'ni. And he cried, Miyiten Musi ani sachtecha. So can you imagine? Somebody tried to, his son threw him out. His son was the biggest OTD, like you can't get more off the derech than Avshalom. Like you can't, like even Avi Fishoff wouldn't be able to figure this one out. Like he was Baal, Pilakshe, Aviv, Le'ene, Kol Yisrael. He did everything in the world. And he's crying there and he's saying, B'ni, B'ni. Alavai, I would die, I'm Tachtov. Yiten Musi, and Isachtech, Avshalom, B'ni, B'ni. Vayugad leYoyov. So they told Yoav, Yosh, I went into Perik Yates, L'chaim. I went into Perik Yates. The problem is that Perik Yates is an extremely, extremely long Perik.
It's a teaser.
I'm sorry. It's a very long Perik. Okay. L'chaim.